To start the painting part of our project, I need, of course, some paint. I'm going to also want white paint, water, a paper towel, and of course a paintbrush. Now, I would like to start off, before I get started painting, by sketching out where I would like some of my swirls to be. So I'm going to do just a couple little swirlies. Try to make sure some is at the top part of your page, since we'll have buildings at the bottom. And then I'm going to start painting. I'm going to start with a cool color mostly for this paper. You could do warm colors, but I'm going to do little blue cool colored brush strokes, just like Van Gogh did. Short brush strokes around the swirls of my sky. I'll go around both sides, both swirls, and fill them up with just one color to start with. Notice how many times I'm going back to my paint to get more paint. Do a few small strokes, get more paint. Once I finish with blue, I could get another cool color. I wouldn't want to mix a warm color with my blue because it would get kind of brown, and I don't necessarily want brown in my sky. So I'm going to clean off my brush by wiping it on the bottom, and I'm going to do, I think, some green in there. It's another cool color. And I'll continue doing those short brush strokes. I'm going to rinse it off and do one more color in my swirls, and that's going to be white. I love the way that my colors mix together while I paint them. They mix on the paper, and that is the same way Van Gogh painted. He mixed his paint while it was on the paper, not outside on the palettes. So I'm going to do white. It looks so good when you mix it together on the paper. And now I'm going to do the background part of my sky. And now that I want it to be a color that's maybe not in my swirls to make it stand out, so I'm going to start with purple, which is the third cool color and the one that I haven't used yet. So I'll fill up the rest of my sky with that third cool color I haven't used. And I'm just going to continue doing those short brush strokes. Notice none of my brush strokes are any longer than an inch. In fact, most are shorter. I'm starting at the top part of my sky, just in case I run out of time, or maybe don't even want to do the bottom part. I want to fill up this top part first, because I know the bottom will be covered with buildings. I'm making sure I don't get too close to my moon, because I know I want to do that with cool colors, and purple and my cool colors would get kind of, once again, some funky browns. But I'm going to continue doing with purple. And then I think I'm going to mix with another cool color in my sky. I want it to not stand out quite so much. So I feel like another cool color could mix well with my purple. So for that last sky color, I think I will add some blue. And that will tie together my swirls because my swirls also have blue. So there's one color that is the same, which is the blue, and one color that is different, which is the green and the purple. So they're different from each other. Now you've noticed I'm adding a little bit of white because I want to lighten up my sky a little bit. And now I'm going to add some yellow for my moon. I'm going to do a couple different warm colors in the moon to kind of mix them together on my paper to give that same effect that Van Gogh's stars and moon had in his sky. my painting is now dry, huzzah! So I've got some black strips of paper so I can make the silhouettes of my building. I'm going to make a skyline, so I want to make sure I have enough paper to cover the whole page across. I'm going to take one strip and I'm actually going to cut it in half. I wouldn't want to make it the full building, otherwise I would get to cover up my beautiful sky that I've just worked so hard on. So I'm going to cut it maybe not right in the middle so I can have some different size buildings. So I've got some tall, I got some short, maybe I got some medium right there. After I finished cutting them all into 2 pieces, I will take one of my buildings and fold it into half the skinny way, the hot dog fold as we like to call it sometimes. I'm folding it as nice as I can, and I'm going to cut it starting from the open side, not on the fold side. I want to start on the open side and cut up. So I'm going to do a stair step cut. And when I open it up, I have a nice building. Now sometimes we might fold it the wrong way. Let's see if I start on the folded side, what happens. I get not quite the building I'm looking for. So I'm going to do another building. I'm going to maybe fold my tall skinny one. Folding it in half, starting on the open side. I can just cut a different design. And now I have a nice tall tower. I'm going to keep doing my buildings, folding them in half skinny ways, and then chopping them starting on the folded side. Once I think I have enough buildings, it's time to glue. I'm going to use a glue stick to glue all the way around the edges. Notice how I glue not on top of my artwork, and then I place it in the very corner of my paper. I will continue to glue, making sure I don't have too much of my glue stick sticking out, and I'm going to place it down right next to the previous building. Put some glue on that little bridge, and just put them right next to each other, one after another. If I want to rearrange them from before, I can do that because I haven't glued them yet. So just pick which one you think looks best, in which order. Now I noticed that building was sticking up a little bit, so I went back and I glued it down. We don't want any floppy buildings. And now I have a little bit of extra space. So I'm going to cut one more building so that I don't have that extra space over there. I'm going to fold it up doing the same way I've done all my buildings, and glue it on. And there's a little bit of this building that's going to hang off the edge. So I just take my scissors and I snip it off. When I'm done with my glue stick, I close it up, snap on that lid. I am ready for windows. There are a couple different supplies that we can use for windows. We can use pencils, colored pencils. I especially like white and yellow. You can see kind of how they show up, how the white shows up a bit better than that yellow does. But it is all your preference. Or we can use oil pastels. Now oil pastels show up really bright, but they definitely don't have the same nice point that you'll find on a colored pencil. So let's just see how the white looks and the yellow. So you can see the difference between colored pencils and oil pastels. Now it's your choice what kind of windows you might want to use. Oil pastels could also go up in the sky, maybe if you didn't finish up there. It's really useful to have an extra oil pastel to do details. It looks kind of like paint. But if you've kind of decided what you want to do, whether colored pencils or oil pastels, you can start making windows. Now when I make windows, I try to make them so that they're mostly on top of each other. I don't do all my windows filled in because I want it to look like maybe some people have the lights on and some people don't. But I try to make it in like a grid pattern. Windows on real buildings aren't just willy-nilly all over the place. So I try to put them in there in a grid pattern so they're right on top of the window below them or right next to a window. Or you could imagine that there would be a window there if I didn't color it in. There are different ways to do windows. I have little lined, skinny windows over here, and that's a little bit faster. I think that looks good for all my windows, and I am finished. Yay!